The following is a special presentation by Allie-RX.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AKI Pro Wrestling 64. Before the SmackDown vs. Raw series was churned out every single year, wrestling fans and gamers alike were introduced to a series of kick-ass games that changed the way we normally play them, and that is by making them simple and fun. And as more and more of these games got released, they got progressively better with more wrestlers, full entrances, more moves, and more places to fight in other than the ring. Throughout the entire months of October and November, you will see 4 episodes of some of the greatest wrestling games of all time, and you'll know exactly why these games are so great and what made them so great. But before we begin, I should point out that AKI Corporation did not start developing wrestling games from there. It actually began with one game on the original PlayStation in 1996 in Japan, and that is this game right here called Virtual Pro Wrestling. This game was published by Asmik Entertainment, and it was the precursor to Aki's wrestling games on the N64. And when you begin the game, you see this awesome intro with this gold guy, I don't know what his name is, in pre-rendered CGI. Anyway, in this game you have many different modes to choose from, such as League Challenge, Tournament, Elimination, Title Match, and your typical exhibition mode. What's really interesting about this game is the wrestlers you get to choose from. Most of these guys are fictional wrestlers based on actual wrestlers. For example, there's a wrestler based on Sabu, there's one based on Taka Michinoku, there's one based on Terry Funk, there's even one based on UFC's Ken Shamrock. Hell, there are also wrestlers based on Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and Sting. Now, why does this game have fictional wrestlers based on WCW wrestlers? I'll get to that later. In League Challenge, you have a total of 6 wrestling leagues and 2 unlockable leagues. You have the Empire Wrestling Federation, or EWF, World of Universe, or WOU, Dead or Alive Wrestling, or DAW, Independent Local Wrestling, or ILW, Neo Strong Wrestling, or NSW, and finally, the International American Wrestling Alliance, or Association, I don't know. It's the AWA. Looking at the gameplay, it seems pretty original for its time, as it came out in '96, but it's not for everyone. Sure, you can perform thousands of moves in this game, but most of these moves are really hard to do, especially if you're new to wrestling games. Not only that, it takes a really long time to learn most of these moves. In 1997, THQ struck a deal with WCW to release an American version of Virtual Pro Wrestling called WCW vs. the World, also for the PlayStation. It's the exact same game, except the IAWA was replaced with WCW, as well as the fictional wrestlers who were in that league. WOU was replaced with Samurai Wrestling Federation, or SWF. Dead or Alive Wrestling was shortened to just Dead or Alive, or DOA. And ILW was renamed to Independent Union, or IU. The intro here is just a montage of clips from WCW Nitro and Saturday Night episodes. It's nowhere near as good as the VPW intro. Both WCW vs. the World and Virtual Pro Wrestling are not bad games, but they're not good or great either. Like I said earlier, the controls and moves are pretty hard to perform, and I think it goes something like this. There are moves where you just gotta press the circle button, and there are also moves where you gotta hold the circle button, hold 1 or 2 directions on the D-pad, and then let go of the circle button. And there are also moves where you gotta press the circle and X button simultaneously, or press circle and some other button simultaneously. It's kinda weird. And also, the graphics don't look so good. I know this was a start for 3D wrestling games, but for certain wrestlers, the character designs look pretty bad. For example, Chris Benoit and Jeff Jarrett. Why do they look so damn fat in this game? So I only recommend this game to wrestling fans who are like really good at wrestling games. Otherwise, you probably won't be too impressed with this, if not at all. I give WCW vs. the World and Virtual Pro Wrestling a bronze. So yeah, AKI got off to a slow start with wrestling games, but it doesn't stop here. A lot of changes and improvements were made once they jumped ship to the N64. Tune in next week for Episode 1, Virtual Pro Wrestling 64, and WCW vs. NWO World Tour. And believe me, you won't be disappointed.